It was a quiet evening in Geneva when Elena Morau finally gathered the courage to open her late husband's study. The air was still thick with his scent: tobacco, old paper, and sandalwood. 2 months had passed since Dr. Gabriel Morau, world-renowned archaeologist and lecturer at the University of Lausanne, was buried. Yet his presence lingered like an unspoken promise, or perhaps a lie waiting to be uncovered. Elena had avoided the room for weeks, afraid that entering it would make his death feel too real. But when the attorney handling the estate insisted that she catalog Gabriel's possessions, she found herself in the study surrounded by relics from Egypt, Rome, and Morocco. Her eyes caught a faint crack in the wall behind a bookshelf. Something metallic glimmered within the plaster. She pushed aside the shelf, her fingers brushing against the cold steel of a small built-in safe she had never seen before. After searching for hours through drawers and books, she found a key hidden behind an old photograph of her and Gabriel during their honeymoon in Paris. Her hands trembled as she turned the key, and the lock clicked open. Inside were a velvet jewelry box, several sealed letters tied with a ribbon, and a wedding necklace, gold, delicate, and distinctly antique. It wasn't hers. On the back of the necklace pendant were the words engraved in tiny script: "To my dearest Isabella, forever Gabriel." The name struck her like a thunderclap. Isabella. Who was Isabella? The letters smelled of age and rose perfume. The handwriting, flowing, confident, and unmistakably romantic, did not belong to her husband's usual academic scrawl. The first began with a date: June 12, 1988, Rome. My beloved Isabella, every day without you feels like an ache I cannot name. I return to my lectures, to my students, but my heart remains by the fountain at Piazza Navona, where you said goodbye. If our worlds were different, if time were kinder, I would have given you the life you deserved. Elena's eyes blurred with tears. This wasn't a casual affair. This was love, deep, desperate, forbidden love. But the date confused her. 1988. That was 2 years before she had even met Gabriel. Her grief twisted into something darker. She needed to know who Isabella was, why Gabriel had kept these letters hidden behind walls, why he had lived with her all these years, carrying another woman's name in his heart. She packed the letters, the necklace, and Gabriel's passport into a leather satchel. If Gabriel had lived another life, she would find it. Her journey began in Rome, the city where the first letter was written. Rome in summer shimmered with heat and memory. She checked into a small hotel near Trastevere, her mind restless with questions. One of the letters mentioned an address: Via del Corso 112. When she arrived, she found a small art gallery. Its windows glowed with Renaissance portraits and sculptures. The sign above the door read, Galleria Isabella Conti. Inside, the walls radiated golden light, and in the center stood an elderly woman with silver hair tied in a graceful bun. Her eyes, though aged, carried an elegance that spoke of unforgotten passion. Buongiorno, the woman greeted softly. May I help you? Elena hesitated. I'm looking for information about Dr. Gabriel Morau. The woman froze. The color drained from her face. You knew Gabriel? Yes, Elena whispered. I was his wife. The woman's hand trembled slightly. I see, she said quietly. Then you should come with me. They entered a smaller back room, dimly lit and filled with paintings. On one wall hung a portrait of a young woman in white, wearing the exact wedding necklace Elena had found in the safe. Elena's voice broke. That necklace, it's the same. The woman nodded slowly. It was mine. They sat together, two women bound by one man's love. Isabella spoke first, her voice soft but steady. She had met Gabriel in Cairo in 1987, during an archaeological expedition. She was an art historian from Florence. He was a visiting researcher. Their love had been instant and fierce, tied by shared passion for history and beauty. But Gabriel was already engaged to a French diplomat's daughter. When he confessed, Isabella was heartbroken and tried to end it. Months later, she discovered she was pregnant. He wanted to leave her for me, Isabella whispered, tears glistening in her eyes. But his family forbade it. They threatened to ruin his career. He begged me to keep our child secret, to protect us both. So I left Rome. I went to England and started over. Elena's breath hitched. Your child, what happened to them? He grew up never knowing his father, Isabella said. I told him Gabriel died long ago. His name is Daniel. He's an artist in London now. Elena's world tilted. Her husband had a son, an entire life she knew nothing about. Her daughter Sophie, their only child, was 24. That meant Sophie had a half-brother she'd never met. Why did he hide all this? Elena whispered. If he loved you, why stay with me? Because life is cruel, Isabella replied gently. He loved you too. He wrote to me once, saying he chose the safer love, but I think part of him never stopped loving me. Elena left the gallery feeling hollow and furious, her grief now a storm of betrayal. Still, she couldn't stop. The last letter mentioned a promise buried in Morocco, something he swore to protect for both their children. Both, it could only mean Daniel and Sophie. Days later, Elena arrived in London. Through Isabella's contact, she found Daniel's art studio in Notting Hill. The moment she saw him, her heart almost stopped. Daniel looked like a younger version of Gabriel, dark hair, deep, thoughtful eyes, the same manner of tilting his head when he worked. She introduced herself as a friend of her husband's from the university. Daniel was polite but guarded. My mother doesn't talk about my father, he said, chiseling at marble. All I know is he died before I was born. Elena's throat ached. And if you could meet him, what would you ask? He smiled faintly. Why he left? That night, Elena couldn't sleep. The letters called to her again, their ink whispering through time. The last few lines of the final letter mentioned the truth buried beneath the red sands of Morocco. She knew then where she must go next. In Marrakesh, the desert wind felt alive with whispers. She traced Gabriel's final expedition to a dig site near Ouarzazate, where she found Professor Karim Haddad, an old colleague. When she showed him the necklace, his expression darkened. You shouldn't have come here, Madame Morau, he said gravely. Some secrets are too heavy for the living. I have to know, she insisted. Please. Karim hesitated, then opened a drawer and took out a faded photograph. In it were Gabriel, Isabella, and two infants, a boy and a girl. Elena's hands trembled. No, she gasped. They didn't have twins. Karim looked away. Oh, they did. But when an earthquake struck in '89, chaos separated them. Isabella fled north, believing the girl had died. Gabriel thought the boy was lost. They each raised one child, never realizing both survived. Elena's mind shattered. Sophie, her beloved daughter, was not her biological child. Gabriel had taken her from the ruins, told Elena she was an orphan of the quake, and raised her as their own. She staggered outside, collapsing into the red dust. The heat blurred with her tears. The man she had loved for 30 years had deceived her beyond measure. Yet part of her understood. He had tried to protect what was left of love from the ruins of his mistakes. When Elena returned to London, she couldn't keep the truth hidden. She met Daniel again, this time revealing everything. He listened silently, his jaw clenched, his eyes wet. So Sophie is my sister, he whispered. Yes, Elena said, her voice breaking. And your father never stopped trying to bring you together. He went back to Morocco to uncover the truth, but fate took him before he could tell us. Daniel leaned back, staring at the ceiling. All my life, I blamed a ghost. I thought he abandoned us, but he was searching for us. Tears fell freely down Elena's face. He loved you both, but he was trapped between two worlds, two lives. Together, they went to see Sophie. The reunion was painful. Sophie's shock turned into anger. You let me live a lie, she cried. Everything I believed was fake. Elena dropped to her knees. I didn't know, Sophie. I swear I didn't know. He took you in when I thought you were simply a lost child. I loved you as my own because you are my own. Sophie's voice trembled. He lied to everyone, Mother. Maybe we were all just his secrets. Elena reached for her, but Sophie walked away, her face streaked with tears. For weeks, she didn't speak to either of them. Months passed. Then one autumn morning, Sophie received a parcel at her flat. No sender's name, only her own written neatly in ink. Inside was the gold wedding necklace, polished and shining as if new, and a note written in graceful cursive. For the daughter of both worlds, may you find peace where we found pain. Isabella. Sophie held the necklace against her chest and wept. That evening, she visited Daniel in his studio. In the center stood a sculpture. Two hearts, one of marble, one of gold, intertwined. He looked up as she entered. It's for them, he said softly, for the people who loved too much and lied too long. Sophie touched the sculpture. Maybe love isn't about truth or lies. Maybe it's what survives after all of it. They stood in silence, two siblings bound not by blood alone, but by the echoes of a love that refused to die. A year later, Elena returned to Geneva. The study still smelled faintly of sandalwood. She reopened the safe, placed the necklace and the letters inside, and sealed it once more. But before closing it, she added a new letter of her own. Love is not destroyed by truth. It is defined by it. She also placed Gabriel's final message, one she had found in Morocco among his notes. To my wife, Elena, and to the loves I failed and the children I never deserved. Forgive me. Love made me a coward, and truth made me late. But perhaps one day, love will unite what lies tore apart. Elena smiled through tears and locked the safe. For the first time, she felt at peace. The safe that once held betrayal now held forgiveness. The house that once echoed with silence now whispered only memory. Across the world, Isabella passed away quietly that same year, her gallery inherited by Daniel. Sophie visited often, helping him curate an exhibition called The Echoes of Two Hearts. People came from across Europe to see it. Paintings, sculptures, letters, all telling the story of love surviving through time, deception, and blood. One evening, as they closed the gallery, Sophie looked at Daniel and said, "Do you think they are watching us?" Daniel smiled faintly. "If they are, I hope they finally see us as their truth." Outside, Rome glowed beneath the streetlights. The fountain at Piazza Navona rippled softly in the night. Somewhere beyond the stars, the echoes of two hearts finally fell silent, their secrets at rest. Morals, lessons, and teachings. 1. Truth, no matter how buried, will always find its way to the surface. 2. Love built on deception cannot last. Yet genuine love can still be born from its ruins. 3. Forgiveness is not weakness. It is freedom that ends generational pain. 4. Secrets kept for love often become chains that bind generations. 5. Family is not only made by blood, but by the courage to stand together after the truth is revealed. 6. The past cannot be erased, but it can be redeemed through honesty and compassion. 7. Every deception hides a cry for understanding. Healing begins where judgment ends. If this story touched your heart and kept you reading till the end, don't let the emotions stop here. Subscribe now for more breathtaking stories of love, betrayal, and redemption that will hold your soul captive till the last word. Because sometimes, the deepest secrets are written in love.